What if I told you the greatest hero in history was also its most efficient murderer? Picture this. A king stands at a narrow mountain pass. Behind him, everything he loves. In front of him, an army so massive that when they drink from rivers, the rivers run dry. He has 300 men. The enemy has over 1 million. He's going to die. He knows it. He chose it. And that's the version they want you to believe. But what if I told you this same king, this symbol of freedom and sacrifice, personally commanded the murder of thousands of innocent people? Not enemies, not invaders, his own people. Every single year. Still think he's a hero? Grab something to hold on to, because what you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about courage, sacrifice, and the man they call Leonidas. Let's go. First, forget the movie. Forget the abs. Forget the slow-motion spear throws. The real Sparta wasn't about glory. It was a nightmare dressed in bronze. Imagine a society where the government steals your child at age 7, not to educate him, not to protect him, to break him, systematically, deliberately, completely. That's where our hero came from. Young Leonidas, barely old enough to lose his first tooth, was ripped from his mother's arms. She wasn't allowed to cry. Crying meant weakness. Weakness meant death. What happened next? For 23 years, the state did everything possible to destroy the boy and build a weapon. They starved him on purpose. They beat him daily. They made him sleep naked on sharp reeds in freezing winters. But wait, it gets darker. They gave him one rule about stealing food. Don't get caught. One boy, the stories say, stole a fox and hid it under his cloak. When questioned, he stood perfectly still, silent, emotionless. While the fox literally chewed through his stomach, he died without making a sound. They called this education. You want to know what I call it? The factory that builds monsters. Now here's where your blood should run cold. At 18, the most promising young killers received a graduation test. Not an exam, not a challenge, a hunt. They handed Leonidas a dagger and one simple instruction. Go into the countryside, find the slaves, kill as many as you can. Not enemy soldiers, slaves, farmers, families, people who'd done nothing wrong except exist. This was called the Krypteia, the secret killing program. And participation wasn't optional, it was mandatory. Every autumn, Sparta officially declared war on its own enslaved population. Legal, documented, celebrated. Any Spartan could murder any slave without consequence. No trial, no questions, no limits. Young Leonidas returned from his killing year with 17 confirmed murders. Above average, his instructors noted. They'd found their perfect killer, Abi Socho. This is the man they made movies about. This is the face on motivational posters. This is the defender of freedom. Freedom for who, exactly? Because here's what nobody tells you. For every Spartan citizen, there were 7 slaves. 7 human beings treated like livestock. 7 people who woke up every day knowing any Spartan could legally end their life before sunset. Leonidas didn't fight this system. He ran it. Now pause. Take a breath. Because we're about to enter the battle that made this man immortal. But first, you need to understand the real numbers. When Leonidas marched to Thermopylae, he didn't take 300 men. He took 300 Spartans. Behind them walked over 2,000 slaves, carrying shields, carrying spears, carrying food, treated like pack animals, expected to die like insects. And alongside them, nearly 7,000 other Greek warriors, Thespians, Thebans, Corinthians, men whose names history erased because Sparta wrote the final story. You see what happened there? 300 became the legend. 7,000 became footnotes. 2,000 slaves became nothing, not even a footnote. That wasn't an accident. That was the plan. Let's walk into the hot gates together. Imagine the smell first. Sulfur springs bubbling up from underground. The stench of 200,000 Persian soldiers. Horses, fear, sweat. Death waiting in the air. The pass itself was barely 50 feet wide at its narrowest. Mountains crushing in from one side, cliffs dropping to the sea on the other. Leonidas walked this ground like a man selecting his own grave. Perfect, he said. His captain asked. For defense? Leonidas didn't answer. And right there, If you're paying attention, you can see the monster beneath the armor. He wasn't planning to defend anything. He was planning something else entirely. When the Persian scouts arrived, they witnessed something that broke their minds. Spartan warriors, exercising naked, combing their long hair, completely calm. This was psychological warfare, and it worked beautifully. The message? We are not afraid of death. We are not afraid of you. We are not even fully human anymore. One captured scout was released with words for Emperor Xerxes himself. Tell your master, the sons of Heracles are waiting. Then came the negotiations, and this is where you need to pay close attention. Xerxes sent messengers with reasonable terms. Submit, keep your lands, become friends of the Persian Empire. Standard practice. Nobody needs to die. Leonidas's response? He forced those messengers to watch while his men executed a group of slaves, right there, in front of everyone, for cowardice. The message was crystal clear. We are not reasonable men. Now let's talk about what actually happened when the fighting began. The Persian emperor sent his Median troops first, expendable soldiers, testing the waters. What happened next gave Persian veterans nightmares for generations. The Spartan formation moved like one living organism, shields locked together, spears extending 8 feet beyond the wall, a machine built for one purpose only, killing. In 15 minutes, 500 Persians lay dead or dying in the dust. 15 minutes, 500 bodies. The Spartans rotated, fresh men to the front every 15 minutes. The killing never stopped. But look behind the glory for a second. Who was dragging away the wounded? Slaves. Who was holding the flanks? Slaves. Who was dying in numbers nobody bothered to count? Slaves. For every single Spartan who fell, 7 slaves died. The ground turned to mud, but not from rain. Then came the immortals, 10,000 of Persia's finest warriors, never defeated, ever. Their armor gleamed like snake scales. Their reputation had conquered entire cities through fear alone. They marched into that narrow pass expecting victory. They found something else entirely. Here's the dark truth nobody wants to admit. It wasn't courage that made Spartans unstoppable. It was programming. Persian soldiers fought to live. Spartans had been trained since childhood to die. Fear had been beaten out of them. Hesitation had been tortured out of them. Everything human had been systematically destroyed. What remained was pure weapon. Thrust, twist, withdraw, step over the corpse, repeat. The killing became mechanical, industrial, endless. When Persian arrows fell so thick the sky went dark, a Spartan officer made his famous joke, "Good, we'll fight in the shade." But behind that bravado was something colder, calculation. Every Spartan knew exactly where his brothers stood. They'd trained together since childhood. They could fight blind. The slaves behind them couldn't. By the end of day 1, Persian casualties approached 5,000. Spartan losses, fewer than 50. Slave losses, already over 200. But who was counting them? Nobody. That was the point. Day 2 brought the first crack in Spartan invincibility. Leonidas watched his own brother take an arrow through the eye slit of his helmet. Watched him fall. Watched him die. His face showed nothing. Nothing. The training that built him had burned away anything that could feel grief. What remained was calculation, strategy, the mission. But the other Greeks saw something that changed everything. Spartans could die. Then came the betrayal that everyone remembers. A local farmer named Ephialtes sold the secret mountain path for 30 talents of gold. Persian forces began circling behind the Greek position. Encirclement was hours away. Now, here's where the legend breaks. Any competent commander would retreat, save the army, fight another day. The path was still clear. Thousands of lives could be saved. Leonidas smiled instead, that cold, empty expression the Agoge created. He dismissed the allied Greek forces. Go, tell everyone Sparta held. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. What he told his captains afterward would make your blood freeze. When encirclement is complete, ensure no one escapes, no witnesses. Do you understand what that means? The slaves who'd served faithfully, the allies who'd fought bravely, anyone who might tell the real story of what happened in that pass, all of them had to die. That night, Leonidas gathered his remaining Spartans. His speech wasn't about freedom, wasn't about Greece, wasn't about saving civilization. It was about immortality through death, becoming more than men by choosing how to die. But to the 1,800 surviving slaves, he gave different orders. Hold the wings, absorb the arrows, buy time with your bodies. Buy time, with bodies, human shields, nothing more. Dawn came with Persian trumpets screaming from 3 directions at once. The trap was complete. What followed wasn't a last stand. It was orchestrated mass suicide designed to create a legend. The Spartans abandoned their defensive walls, fought in the open, killed as many Persians as possible before dying. But here's what never made the movies. As the battle became hopeless, slaves started dying. Not from Persian weapons, from Spartan ones. No witnesses, no stories, no truth. The Thebans trying to surrender? Cut down by their own allies, the cleanup was thorough, professional, complete. Leonidas fell early. His body became a rallying point. Persians and Spartans literally fought over his corpse. When spears broke, they used swords. When swords broke fists and teeth, the ending came from the sky. Xerxes, perhaps sickened by losing 20,000 of his own men, ordered his archers to finish it. Arrows fell so thick the sun disappeared. The last Spartan died on his feet. Over 40 arrows in his shield. Still upright. 2 hours, 32 minutes, 3,500 Greeks dead. But listen to these numbers carefully. 300 Spartans, 298 dead, 700 Thespians, none survived, 400 Thebans, none survived, 2,100 slaves. The records go silent, completely silent. Archaeologists found the mass graves, separated by class, even in death. Spartan remains, buried with honors, marked, remembered. But surrounding them? Unmarked pits, thousands of skeletons. Some wounds don't match Persian weapons at all, they match Spartan spear patterns. The killing of witnesses was thorough, just like Leonidas planned. The cover-up began before the blood dried. Within 50 years, 7,000 defenders became 300. Allied Greeks vanished from memory. The slaves? They never existed in the official version. The story Sparta wanted is the story that survived. And here's the final irony that should haunt you. Sparta's brutal system ultimately destroyed itself. Within 100 years of Thermopylae, Spartan military power was shattered forever. Why? They'd killed too many of their own people. Their citizen population shrank to nothing. The slaves they'd terrorized for centuries finally broke free. The city that lived by the spear died by it. But the myth outlived reality. Romans admired them. Renaissance thinkers praised them. Modern militaries study them. Movies glorify the 300 while forgetting the 7,000. Especially the 2,100 slaves who died without names. So ask yourself something uncomfortable. If Leonidas walked among us today, what would he recognize? Not democracy. Sparta despised it, not freedom. Sparta crushed it, not mercy. Sparta called it weakness. He would recognize only one thing: the willingness to sacrifice lesser people for greater causes, the strong crushing the weak and calling it virtue. 300 men did stand against an empire, but they stood on the bones of thousands more. The lion's son was exactly what Sparta made him, a perfect killer who died perfectly, ensuring his victims' silence forever. Some monsters wear lion skins, some monsters become heroes, and sometimes, 25 centuries isn't long enough to wash the blood away. 300 Spartans, 20,000 forgotten dead. That's the real mathematics, that's the real legacy, remember that.